What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Corporate Bartender. Are you facing a complex challenge right now? I mean, let's face it, we all deal with some kind of complex challenge from time to time. Today, we're going to tackle that from an engineering perspective, but with a coach's heart. We've got Reuven Shelef on the program today. Don't know Reuven? Don't worry, we've got you covered. He's the founder and CEO of Out of the Box Consulting and is gaining notoriety for his Untangling Complex Challenges methodology. He leverages a diverse background in agriculture, military intelligence, and corporate leadership. Reuven empowers individuals and teams to break free from long-standing roadblocks, gain new perspectives, and move forward with purpose. This was a fantastic conversation. We laughed a lot, and I just know you're going to dig it. So buckle up, TCBers, grab your favorite cocktail, and let's get right on into it with Reuven Shelef on today's TCB.
Welcome to SkyTeam's The Corporate Bartender, where we gather some of the best HR and people leaders to discuss what's happening on the people side of business. Now pull up a stool, belly up to the bar, and join us for The Corporate Bartender.
Welcome, everybody. It's Wednesday. You know what that means. It's your favorite day and mine. It is Corporate Bartender Day. It is the 16th of July, 2025. We are into the second half of the year. Ruby's birthday is all but a memory at this point in time. It happened last weekend. It was an extravaganza of epic proportions with costuming, live music, lots and lots of people. Ruby, did you have a good time at your birthday?
I might have had the best birthday ever in my whole life.
There was roller skating involved.
There was roller skating in a venue that does not normally have roller skating. It was pretty good. It was pretty good. I'm just going to give your birthday, Ruby, a round of applause because it was an epic event. This is the 228th time that we have convened this group of really awesome people. Today's going to be a fun day. As I like to say, we have a guest. He's the person that you don't recognize in your little Hollywood Squares Brady Bunch view, which I realized the other day that those two references date me because there are people who have no idea what that means who hear this. So if you're listening and you don't know what those mean, just Google them, please. I don't want to have to find a new reference, but if you have one for me, let me know. Because I think in the future, they're going to say, it's like, like a Zoom view, like a Teams view. And people will go, oh yeah, that's not as funny. All right, today, our guest is Reuven Shelef. He is the founder and CEO of a company called Out of the Box Consulting. And he is known as a strategic engineer with the coach's heart. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about him in just a minute. But first, just from a housekeeping perspective, we have guests upcoming. And on 7/30, the 30th of July, we have Damon Lemby. He is the CEO of a company called Learn It and is the author of a couple of books, the Learn It All Leader, and Success. Good decisions equal success. Stop decision anxiety and start taking action. Damon is a fellow graduate of Arizona State University and a baseball player, stroke fan, and a fan of Roger Clyne and the Peacemakers who's been to Circus Mexicus. So I don't even know that we'll talk about anything real on the 30th, but it's going to be a hoot and a lot of fun for me and Lori and Ruby because, Circus Mexicus is a thing. But today, as I said, today's all about Reuven. I mentioned he is the CEO of Out of the Box Consulting, known as a strategic engineer with the coach's heart. And he's kind of known for this framework that he has, this methodology. It's pretty groundbreaking. It's called Untangling Complex Challenges. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to get into a bunch of other things too. We're going to talk a little bit about relationships and building resiliency through them, because as you all know, relationships are near and dear to our heart here at the Bartender and at SkyTeam. And we're going to get into a couple of things about generations and just the changing nature of people in the workplace. Peopling is hard. and People Inc. gets harder pretty much every day at this point in time. So Reuven has done his homework. Normally I say we didn't warn the guest, but we like to do a thing. But he told me in the pre-show he practiced. So let's give Reuven a warm TCB welcome, shall we? Oh, the cocktail shaker. Not only did he practice, he brought props. That, Reuven, is up-leveling the game. Thanks for being here with us today.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Awesome. Well, we always like to start with a little origin story and learn a little bit about your journey, because most of us don't end up doing the thing that we thought we were going to do when we started down this path. So I always ask, tell us a little bit about your journey. How did it start? And you can start wherever. When you were a tiny baby, your first job, wherever you like, and how it's going now and how you got here to be with us today.
I love that question, and I love that you offered the permission to start really young, because when given the option, I really take it. I was born in Texas to a Canadian mother.
I hear both of those accents really loud and clear, Texas and Canada.
I visited Canada last week, and I noticed how far my Canadian accent is. I learned a few things. I was hardly 2 years old when my family moved to Israel, and that's where I grew up. And I moved to California about 22 years ago. So I'm in Sunnyvale, California, Silicon Valley. My years in Israel were very formative. I grew up on an orchard, on a pretty large citrus orchard, and I found myself working from a very young age. Like, my earliest memories are from 3 years old, and it was a combination of working in the orchards and waking up, especially waking up on Saturdays really early to do that. So I learned from a very young age the importance of doing things properly. If you don't do things properly in agriculture, then animals die, trees die,
it's a big deal.
Fruit, it's a big deal. We don't have enough fruit, so income is affected, etc. So that was kind of my beginning, and also one of my earliest memories is war. So the Yom Kippur War in '73. So the importance of taking measures to keep safe and things like that. And then you can imagine growing up in a war zone ongoingly is something
to this day, actually.
Yeah, ups and downs. So I served. So childhood in agriculture. Then I attended an agricultural high school, and it was a boarding school. So I got to experience human dynamics from 13 and a half till about 18.
Those are intense human dynamics, the teen years.
Yeah. It's first year was almost strictly bullying, but I also found myself professionally, if I can say, in a way, and I can elaborate about it later. But a few experiences during those formative years stay with me until today in a very meaningful way. From the things that you would think are completely mundane, like cleaning tables in the dining room, and we're talking about teenage years where things like that shouldn't interest any teenager. And I kind of learned a lot out of just doing things and paying attention to how things should be done, or how I could do things so it's more meaningful. So that's part of it. And then I served in the Army 4 years. I was in field intelligence. I was a captain. and I had over 100 officers and soldiers reporting to me at a certain point. And you can imagine the importance of doing things right there. It's my people's life, my life at stake, sometimes in jeopardy. And then I studied engineering, and I skipped a few milestones there, but just in the interest of time, I'll give you the shorter version. I studied engineering, hardware engineering. I built the switches that we had this vision at 3Com, the company, one of the companies that built the infrastructure for the internet. We had that cool vision that one day, it was really a pipe dream. One day, people will connect their computer to the internet.
What?
Without needing to configure. It was still with a cable, but without configuring anything. You'll just plug it in, and it will connect to the internet. And then after a few years of doing that kind of work, we had a new vision, which was without a wire.
Whoa.
That was completely off the charts. So being in those trenches of in the forefront of technology and creating something so futuristic and so impactful, looking back, it's like crazy. But being there was every day was another adventure, another conquer, and that's also how I got to Silicon Valley. The companies that I worked for were either based here or the clients were here. And I, even as a young engineer, with the responsibility of mainly designing a board, with a PCB, a printed circuit board, what holds all the components for the non-technical people in the audience, that piece of green stuff that holds all the electronic components together. You can take your closest electronic device, like this arcade Pac-Man thing, and break it open, and you'll find there's
a green board in there.
There's a green board in there. No matter how old or how new, since the transistor evolved to be a small thingy,
we're still soldering shit on the green board.
Exactly. It's just the components are getting smaller and smaller to the level that you can't see. You almost can't see what you're doing. But in those days, I could still see. So I was interested in, why are we creating this product? Who are the customers? Let's go visit them. I want to hear from them what they need. When I transferred to when my first project was transferred to manufacturing, and the manufacturing people came back to me and said, hey, for the next revision, design it for manufacturing. I said, what do you mean? They said, oh, there is something called DFM, Design for Manufacturing. It's a new upcoming, we're talking about mid-90s now. It's a new upcoming methodology that we use so we can manufacture effectively. And I said, why are you telling me this after we did the prototypes? We should design for manufacturing from the get-go. And they were kind of, I know. So I went and discovered, I learned a little bit about it. I pushed a few buttons, traveled to a few places, talked to a few people. And from then on, I transferred to manufacturing my own projects. I put myself in the places where I could have an impact. My context through those years and later on became identifying where things are going wrong, learning how to identify them before things go wrong. And initially, it was putting myself in the places where I could make an impact on preventing and fixing. And then I found myself that I'm one of the only people in every organization that I was in, large companies and startups, I'm almost the only person that is interested in this. So I was really busy, and I was recognized and appreciated and all that, but I really wanted to scale this. So I started teaching people how to identify gaps, how to solve how to anticipate things that could go wrong, and then how to solve for them. And that became my professional life for the last 30 years. First in companies that I worked for, and then when I moved to California, I started consulting. I never had the intention. I worked with consultants in the past when I was responsible for implementing Oracle for service and support. And there was this consulting team that helped out. So I got to work with people from outside the companies that I worked for, but I never took that capacity. And it was also after I spent a good while in India. I was working for this company that we basically created the next generation internet devices that is currently at play. You know, when you connect to AT&T for fiber to the home, the backbone is stuff that is what we created then. A little bit early to the market, but Nokia Siemens bought us. In any case, we got this huge project in India with Reliance, Reliance Infocom, the biggest telecom company in the world then, maybe still now. And I was responsible to define how we are going to deploy a 5 million nodes of optical Ethernet nationwide in India.
Wow.
So I found myself, it was a huge project. I was talking with all the big ones, Wipro, ECL, the biggest partners. And it was between hiring all these Indian engineers and who came with their families, by the way. It was fascinating. Today I know that it was, there were a few things that led to that, but it was fascinating at that time. I'm interviewing this guy, and he's not allowed to speak in his interview. His mother or his wife is actually running the show. It was extraordinary. In any case, from the human aspect to writing a bunch of documents on how we're going to do this, to climbing on telephone poles, to where we're going to put the devices, that I was the product manager of those devices beforehand. I started the product management in the company before, and we didn't design them to be out of a cooled data center. They were like 25 degrees centigrade. Yeah, if you take it once a year for a few minutes to 40 degrees centigrade, you'll be. We're talking like 100 over 100 Fahrenheit.
Pole in the summertime outside.
And then in India, the planned locations were all 40 centigrade and 100% humidity ongoing.
Perfect.
So you can imagine the complexity of the challenge that we were facing. In any case, so that's kind of the background. Then when I arrived here, and I just started consulting because a friend from 3Com Days, VP Operations, called me and said, "Hey, I'm in San Jose in a startup. We need your help." He remembered my abilities from, it was like 10 years before, and that's how I started my consulting career. And then I'll stop talking so you can to ask another question, because there is a lot more to it.
Yeah, well, one of the things that stood out to me in all of your materials and in just listening to that story is, unlike the stereotypical, prototypical engineer, you always key into the human dynamics, the personal growth stuff. Like even in your intro bullet, strategic engineer with a coach's heart. Talk to us a little bit about why focusing on the people that do the stuff, or in the people side of those processes, is important, even when you're a rock solid subject matter expert.
Yeah. So 20, if you would ask me 20 years ago, 22 years ago to be exact.
See, that's an engineer's answer already right there.
You got me. You would ask me, hey, Reuven, are you spiritual? My response would be, me? Spiritual? I'm an engineer. If
I don't even have emotions. I'm an engineer.
If I can't touch it, feel it, it doesn't exist. What are you talking about? What do you want from me? And actually, there were several conversations like that. Now, when I say spirituality, it has nothing to do with religion. I grew up as a Jewish person, and religion was forced on me at a certain level from the eyes of a kid. Only in the second half of my life, I actually got to experience religion as a spiritual practice, and it came from me. No one shoved it down my throat. So my relationship with religion is ambivalent. There are aspects of it that I feel very grateful for, mainly the traditions rather than the religion. And there are aspects of religion that are just horrific, in my opinion. So setting that aside, when I say spiritual has nothing to do with religion, but I didn't have any distinction. And I at that point, I didn't even hear about meditation. And then what happened, as I arrived in California, a good friend of mine who actually I helped her move to California, and then she helped me when we moved. She was also my first real girlfriend, and we separated after a while. But our relationship was strong enough after my wife allowed me to be in touch with her again after we got married and all that.
Is she the one that had the nickname, Reuven?
Exactly.
What was her nickname?
No, she called me Ruby.
Oh.
So Ruby, just before you joined, I said that every time Eric says Ruby, and I listen to other episodes, every time he says Ruby, I light up because it's that sweetness of my first girlfriend. And anyways, so when we moved, my wife and two kids, my daughter was 3 years old and my son was 2.5 months old. Really tiny baby. And we all lived in her apartment in San Francisco for 5 weeks. It was kind of open-ended. Like she said, come live with me, and until you sort things out, until you find a place to live, etc.
In a palatial, giant San Francisco apartment.
It wasn't a tiny one, but it was, the kids slept on the floor and we had our bed on the rug with some, not even a mattress, but they were small enough, didn't matter. Very thick rug. And we stayed there 5 weeks. So until we got organized. So it gives you, a sense of the relationship. And she told me, she gave me an invitation to some event, and she said, I want you to go there and sign up, register for this course.
Okay.
And we went, my wife and I went, and this person on the stage was talking. It was kind of an introduction to this thing called the Landmark Forum. And have you done it?
I've not been through it, but I have friends who've been very involved in it.
Okay, great. Yeah. So at that point, I had a sense of, I heard about the Landmark Forum years beforehand. I did a communication course that had the same origins and stuff. But I didn't understand most of what the person leading that evening said. And my entire first half an hour was bothered by how she held the microphone. So I wasn't really listening. I wasn't really listening for the first half hour, because all that I could think of is, why the hell is she holding the microphone in her hand, this tiny little microphone that should be here, and it's every time she moves, it makes noises and all that. I had a lot to say about how things should be done better, right?
That's so me.
And then when there was a break, I said, let's just go to there. It's right near the W Hotel, which I loved the bar that they had there at the time, with cool music and stuff. And but I knew that Natalie, my dear friend, told me I should register for the course, but I didn't know why I'm there even. And then the leader happened to approach me as I was about to leave, and she asked me a few questions. And I don't remember what I answered. I was kind of just trying to get her off my back. And then she asked something like, "How are you being about this?"
It's an interesting question.
And I did not understand the question.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean? So she said, you're a human being. How are you being?
Huh.
So I said, can you say a little bit more? And she said, well, being human, you can be doing, you can have stuff, and there is a way you are being, like the energy around you, like even without speaking, I could sense a certain being.
Did you say critical of you and the way you hold your microphone? That's how I'm being.
We talked about that already at that point. I couldn't hold back. This is after, when I said she asked a few questions, I asked a few, we already talked about that. That was out of it. It was also a very special conversation because she was from Lebanon. Mm-hmm. And me just moving from Israel recently, and her being from Lebanon, and happens to be that that first girlfriend of mine was born in Beirut, Lebanon as well. And there was some connection there that I couldn't explain. In any case, that question of how I'm being, and she coached me through it. And at that moment, I discovered that there is a whole world that I am not part of. I have no idea what it is, but it was a crack, and there was a lot of light. Today, in my today language, I can explain that there was a lot of light shining through that crack for me. Mm-hmm. And I took the opportunity. I signed up. My wife signed up too. We both registered and ran to the bar at the W. So we missed the second half. And that course that happened a couple of months later, probably August 2004. Never forget the date. August 28th, 2004. It's that impactful. Had a profound impact on my life, where not only I started my journey of personal growth and development, but I started relating to human beings. Now I'm answering your question, Eric. I started relating to human beings as human beings. Mm-hmm. I did not see the human being in human beings to the extent, and it really dawned on me. I get chills until now every time I share this. Usually, after an experience like the army, like serving in the military for a long time, the most powerful relationships are formed in situations like this. So you find, similar to here in the States, where people that are 18 go to college usually, and then in the fraternity or whatever, and those bonds stay, those relationships created stay forever for their entire life.
It's that intensity of that experience.
Exactly. So imagine the intensity of the experience of military in a war zone.
Yeah.
Relationships typically form and bond, and you have friends for life. When I left the Army at age 22, the only friend that I had out of the Army was a person who I knew in middle school, and we happened to serve together. So we were friends before then. And I didn't pay any attention to it then. But in retrospect, and that was one of the insights that I had when I started becoming interested in human beings as human beings, is that as a commander, I was just doing the right thing. And as soldiers, our position is not to think, not to be human.
Just do.
I mean, just do what you're told. That's the essence of being a soldier. And
there's a process and a procedure for all the things that you do, right?
Yeah. And the reason today I wouldn't be a good commander, I wouldn't be a good soldier. Today I'm not willing to fight, no matter what. And I have the luxury, I apologize to my Israeli friends and family that I say that, because I know that if I would be in Israel now, I would serve.
Of course.
So it's a very complicated situation, but me choosing to live in California and not called to serve, I feel comfortable saying that. My psyche, who I am as a human being, finds it really tough to be a soldier. What can I say? There is a reason why soldiers are recruited at age 18. We're not formed yet, right? Okay, so we know the context is really important here. So just putting that out there. In any case, I realized a few things about how I was, and through my journey of personal growth and development, I discovered myself as a human being and others around me in such a raw and compassionate way. I was introduced into forms of meditation and connection with other human beings that just today I'm touched to tears just to be in a conversation with someone. Doesn't matter what we're talking about.
I love that. And I think it's really important, right? Because your framework, because I want to talk about what that is called Untangling Complex Challenges, the methodology. And it's not just an engineering protocol. Because people are involved in these processes, and you have to people with them in it. So tell us a little bit about the Untangling Complex Challenges methodology, and what is it? How would we use it?
Sure. So the essence of it is a framework, a methodology to take someone from a situation that is not desirable to a situation that is desirable. For example, and I'm generalizing it to a great extent, just to not target anything specific, but
sure,
feeling stuck, for example.
Yeah, we've all been there.
And it could be caused by different things. It could be in different domains of life. It could be professional, personal, a mix of. The common denominator here is tried all kinds of things, remained stuck, or moved the needle a little bit, but not really. Recurring state of being in a place that is not desirable. Mm-hmm. That if I distill everything, all challenges possible, that's a common denominator. So then the first thing that we want to look at is what's actually happening versus the stories we're telling ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And
we're great creators of story.
Yeah, and it happens automatically. Mm-hmm. We have no control over it. There are many psychological logical disciplines that can explain where it comes from and call it different names, etc.
Sure.
For the sake of our conversation, we can call them stories. And it's not really after, it's during that ongoing work of distinguishing facts from stories. And for anyone who is offended by the term stories, you can replace that with interpretations or points of view or opinions, etc. As we distill and distinguish facts, we can then look at the facts and deal with them. So I think Lori said something just before we went live about taking apart things to their smaller particles.
Chunking it down.
Chunking it down.
Yeah, exactly. So in my world, it's breaking everything down to the smallest particles that are of interest. So
what does that mean, of interest?
Yeah. So, there's a lot of noise that we need to deal with when we even facts, but that aren't really important and we shouldn't spend time on them. Right. So the ones of interest are the ones that we actually really care about and should care about. But interesting point. Sometimes I'll notice someone will say something and then will say, "Oh, but that doesn't matter." And that's actually, it might be, I don't know at that point, but it might be the most important thing. So it's not that we look to neglect things, but someone said accurately, I don't leave any stone in the field unturned. This is common in agriculture when you need to prepare the field for sowing again. You have to turn over. I'm not sure what the English word is. You have to turn over the soil.
The soil, yeah,
very effectively to refresh and air it. And then when there are rocks, you wanna move them and make sure that nothing is gonna bite you in the when you move that rock, right? So it's basically taking everything that comes to mind and putting it out of ourselves, because when it's in our mind, it's a big entanglement. I know if you got to see the logo that I use for Untangling Complex Challenges, it's a head full of like colored strings, thread, and then there is a little stick figure next to it pulling out one color at a time. That's me. And it's taking that mess that is in the mind, putting it out there so we can treat it as Lego, as a puzzle. Once it's out of our mind, we can actually start doing with it something, because it's grounded in reality. It's not just thoughts that run around and confuse us. An analogy that I use from physics is vectors. A direction with an amplitude, with a certain volume to it, and these are forces that are pulling and pushing us in different directions. And it's very hard when it's inside our brains. It's very hard to deal with. So the very first two steps is to collect all the data, all the facts, distinguish the stories, and then put it out there. Write it down. Doesn't matter if it's a paper or a computer file, but write it all down. And then we start taking everything that's out there and play with it like Play-Doh or Legos or a puzzle. And we basically restructure all the stuff that is going on in what I call an empowering context. So pretty early in the process, people start seeing things differently. And first of all, they're not stuck anymore.
Right.
There is an excitement of, okay, this is new. I never done this before, or I never got guidance, professional guidance in doing this properly. And already people see things differently, and they're energized from the process of discovery itself.
Mhm.
And then it becomes easier and easier. This is hard work, but it becomes easier and easier as we move forward, because people start to I can never say this word, compartmentalize areas or challenges. So there is cross-pollination that is healthy, but there's less noise and disturbance between one another. So a common question that I ask in this work is, how is that related when something comes up? Sometimes it's highly related. Okay, great, let's put it here. But if it's not highly related, let's put it there and stop bringing it up when we're talking about this. So this is a methodology that I bring from mathematics, which is variable separations. When you're isolating this variable, you work on that, and you don't care about the others for now. Don't let them interfere. After we're done here, we'll go there, and then we'll combine it all back. So that's the beginning of the process.
Does that allow people to also uncover the things that are working, right? We tend to skip right over those, right?
Yeah.
And those all get clouded by whatever we feel is holding us back, or our limiting beliefs. And by kind of extroverting everything and separating the fact from the story, you can actually identify, I accomplished all of these things too, right?
Yeah.
And that's also maybe part of the don't lose sight of that.
Absolutely. It's actually a huge part of it, because it's first of all, there are practices that I teach that are related to just being grateful, to the topic of gratitude is a topic that we work on, and the exercises around each topic that I mentioned, we look at what's working, what's not working, and and when we say not working, we look at why do we assess that it's not working. So sometimes, to your point, Lori, very good point, sometimes it seems like there is a problem in a certain area, and actually that area is working pretty darn good. It's adjacent to it. Right. This is what I was talking about, of the noise, the interference that we sometimes have. That's exactly that. So identifying what's working, what's not working, and framing it that way. Actually, we use colors to identify within an area. So, being a spreadsheet kind of guy, and flow charts and block diagrams, these are all the tools, and this is part of what makes Untangling Complex Challenges a unique methodology, is that I'm using tools that are typically used in corporate, in startups, and engineering environments, and I'm using those very same tools with people that sometimes don't even have a computer.
Right.
So even if it's using the idea of a spreadsheet, but on paper, like if they insist, no, I don't have a computer, I don't want to have a computer, okay, we create a spreadsheet on paper. They just have to have a pencil and an eraser and work really hard. But it's part of the therapy.
Right.
What I love about it is there's a couple of things at play in there, and I just finished this book. It's called Teaming by Amy Edmondson, and she talks about this in a couple of different ways. One, like framing is so important, right? Are you framing conquering this challenge as a sort of a learning experience or an execution experience, right? And if it's a rote process that we already know how it goes, like framing for execution is easy and effective, and we can go into it with our efficiency metrics and manage the success or failure of what's going on by those metrics. In a complex process, that doesn't work, right? And she tells a story about this large telco company. This was right at the time DSL became a thing, and they didn't want to miss the window on DSL, and they rolled it out, and they managed it just like all of their other, cable-based products, and it failed horrendously, right?
Yeah.
So there's this framing versus, execution versus learning. And then she also talks about failure and fear and how that factors into it. And what I'm hearing you say in your process is that it's iterative and you're building in the opportunities to learn from those failures along the way. A lot of the things that startup folks talk about all the time, fail fast. But then when they do fail, somebody gets, punished or chastised or fired for failing. So people tend to take less risk unless there's a facilitated process like this. So am I correct in hearing that framing and that iterative learn from failure is part of this untangling complex problems methodology or challenges, rather? Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. Absolutely. And, the first place where we typically face it, the topic of failure, is clarifying that failing does not equal I'm a failure.
Right.
It's the automatic translation that we human beings tend to do if we didn't have any intervention. If I failed, I'm a failure. And that's the first thing that we have to handle. It ties also to, Lori, what you brought up about the things that are working. I mean, I'm for a moment generalizing all human beings. Of course, it's idiotic to do, but for a moment, we human beings tend to celebrate for just a few seconds, if 100%. At all. Mm-hmm. However, if something goes just a little bit wrong, we suffer days on end. Yeah, days on end. This is one of the things that I loved in positive intelligence framework, where part of the framework from very beginning, the first thing that is taught is to celebrate taking the tiniest step.
Yes.
Celebrate. And it's so big.
Yeah. Well, it actually changes your brain chemistry.
It is. Yeah. I mean, in PQ, in the PQ model and in positive intelligence, it's very simplified. You have a saboteur brain and a sage brain. The saboteur brain is all the negative thoughts, and the sage brain is where the wisdom lies, and you have the power to actually live powerfully at choice. So one of the things that I love doing is, and when I mentioned my journey of personal growth and development, I basically went through, Landmark Forum was the very first one, and I continued within Landmark to advance and other programs. I was a leader there, but I did a huge amount of self-development and leadership programs during the first 10 years that I was here in California. And I learned the ins and outs of human dynamics, how we operate. And I didn't do this to become anything. I didn't do this to acquire certificates or anything. I did it just for me. It was me discovering me and my life. And I simply put it to work, not only in my life and my family life, but at work. And given that I ran a consulting practice, I had all the opportunity to test what I'm learning in the realm of being human and put it to work with human beings and create magic in teams that were stuck over what they thought are technical issues. Well, let's uncover actually and see what's actually running the show. So we work a lot with technology organizations. And so I'm going to ask, how would you advise me if I'm a technology leader and, I'm running a project team and it's a bunch of techies and
they're like Reuven 1.0, right? How are you being about this? I don't even know what that question means because it makes no sense to my engineer brain. How do you help technology-minded folks, let's just over stereotype here and keep with that engineering population. How do you convince engineers that relationships matter?
After our call today, I'm going to have dinner with one of my mentees. We just completed a half-a-year mentorship program, and he asked to take me out to dinner for the completion. He's a PhD data scientist.
Okay, setting the stage.
So his 1.0 is not too shabby. He's been around the block. He did a few things in his life, and most of our mentorship was around him being a manager for the first time. So he was individual contributor, this genius sitting in a room and creating smart stuff. Yeah. And suddenly he needs to manage a team.
Right.
So that was most of the work, and it was pretty amazing. I would just ask him, what if you would fill in the blank? So for example, it was, what if you make it a point to meet in person not only your direct reports who are scattered around the country, but also your colleagues who are scattered around the country, especially the colleagues that you have a tough time working with. Like, you're not getting their time of day and it's holding you back. What if you would actually insist and do whatever it takes to go and meet each of these individuals in person? And this was like, I'm outer space. Like
he's like, why on earth would I do that? That's a complete and utter waste of time.
So to his defense, I'll say he was, it's the first time that he heard of that proposal, but he understood right away. A smart person. Yeah. He understood. He saw immediately.
Right. It just wouldn't occur to him on his own.
Yeah, it's like not something that you do these days. It's like when my daughter reports to me, my daughter, I love her dearly, she's 24 years old, amazing. She tells me, oh, I talked to this person and we discussed this and that. I asked, did you actually talk? Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I messaged her.
Right.
Yeah, that's not talking.
I asked if you talked, not if you... Yeah. You knew exactly.
They're not synonymous.
You knew exactly. Yeah. Like, okay, so this generation is just different and we have to learn to deal with it. Like, I learned a whole host of new questions that I have to ask. But in any case, so what I wanted to say about this mentee and in general, there are people that are hungry, starving for what from my perspective is the basic of being human. Mm-hmm. If they have just a slight interest in exploring their humanity, not even knowing what it means, because when we start exploring our humanity, we have no idea. We have no idea who we are, what's our life purpose, nothing. So having the interest is a great place to start, and then just being coachable and willing to play, willing to try, is the path. And I'm pointing here because my conference room is right here, and and I sat here a few years ago with a lady, and she really wanted to work with me, and she came with a host of really a serious entanglement of various. She was running one startup, and she wanted to start another, and she had problems with her business partner, and it was a serious commotion. It was a lot. And as she was sharing what's going on, I felt overwhelmed. It's very rare that I'll feel overwhelmed. I felt that my neurons are dancing debka, and I'm hot, and I can't take. So I said, can we just be quiet for a moment and take a deep breath?
Mm-hmm.
And she got so aggravated at me that I'm suggesting something so obscure as to take a deep breath. I'm not that this woo woo and all that. And I need it. It's not woo woo. I need to relax my nervous system. Mm-hmm. And it was just too much for her. The concept of being tuned to the body, to our needs, to look at anything from a different way. She was not in that space, so the meeting pretty much ended. We didn't
You're not
find
the coach for her, right?
we didn't find. This is many years ago. I know for a fact that she evolved pretty well since then, but at that time, I wasn't good enough. The way I translated, I wasn't good enough to serve her at that point. It's a one time that I had this extreme of a situation. And in corporate environments, when I offer people to breathe deep, to close their eyes, God forbid, in a boardroom or in the conference room where the entire management team is sitting, and sometimes we need to close our eyes and take a deep breath. And sometimes people aren't willing to do that, but that's fine. Most of the times there is some of the people in the room will help me and coach their colleagues or their report. Do what he's saying. Believe me, it will be fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Folks, we've had an engineer say the phrase attuned to the body. It's a thing I didn't think I'd ever hear.
That exists.
Reuven, thank you. This has been a fascinating conversation. I want to give everybody here the opportunity to ask any questions that they may have before I ask you, how do we find you and where do we go from here? So questions for Reuven? Moreg's got one.
I wrote it down on a sticky note. So you talked earlier about we've got to get our thoughts out of our minds. I have so many thoughts. And they know. See?
It's true. It's a true
I
story.
have to get them out. I say, look, I just need to talk to think. But my question then is, how do I do that? How do I get the thoughts out of my head in a way so that we can build with the Lego versus the team feeling like they're standing on the pieces and it's overwhelming and painful?
Hurting my feet.
Yeah.
You like the metaphor? I thought I'd pick your word.
Don't walk on Lego pieces. Do not do that. Do not.
Horrible.
Okay, so two parts. First part is, how do I extract the thoughts out? And second part is, how do I deal with them? How am I able to deal with them once they're out? Okay.
Yes, without overwhelming. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'll start from the second one. If you are overwhelmed, you need someone to help you with that. Someone who's trained in my methodology or any other methodology that helps people deal with a lot of different components or particles. Okay, it's simply something that is not taught at school for the most part, and it's a skill that needs to be learned. I worked with people who learned how to do it and report back. Not only they use it for themselves, but they use it with their teams. They teach it, one engineering manager, program manager. She became a coach at a certain point. She said, not only I use it in corporate environments, I'm teaching what you taught me to my coaching clients. So it's just a matter of learning, experiencing, and practicing. So that's the second part. The first part, one of my dreams, as an engineer, I still think of creating all these applications and and machines and stuff. And one of the things that many years ago, when I started facing my inner chatter, when I got the little voice in my head distinguished for the first time, and then I couldn't stop hearing it, like, oh, it's loud, and it's not unique for me, right? I thought, and I noticed how many thoughts I have every second. And before one stops, another one starts, and it's totally unrelated. And how in the world?
This is Morag's brain every day.
The first thing that I wanted to do was to create technology, to invent technology, electrodes that will just suck. Now, I have to say, this was many years ago. I gave up on doing it, but in this day and age, actually, looking at some of the work that Elon Musk is doing and where AI is, we are getting actually closer and closer to maybe being able to do that. But this is frightening, so we won't talk about that. So what can we do? But I was really interested in that. I would love to have that application. What can we do now before we have that technology? It's simple practice. I saw you held up a note which was kind of like a 3M Post-it note, right? Yeah. Okay. Start with larger pieces of paper. If you're a paper gal, you're on mute, by the way, so I can't hear your feedback. Is that intentional or?
I'm just laughing.
Okay.
There isn't a sheet of paper big enough, Reuven.
Okay. Yes. No, but you have to start. You have to start with something, and this is just to look. I use them too. Okay. Why do I have them on the desk? Although I don't hate, but I really don't like them. Why? Because when I use them, then I'm full of Post-it notes all around me, and it's kind of messy. So I use them just for a specific reason. When I'm on a call, for example, now I don't have place for my iPad where I would actually take longer form notes or place for a paper because it will be in the frame. Then I have this just to take a quick note. But if I'm now doing a brain dump, which is taking all the stuff that I have in my mind and putting it on paper, this simply isn't sufficient. So I'll use a bigger piece of paper, and eventually I will use. Yesterday, I actually used my laptop because there was a lot that I needed to unpack. And initially, it will be a frustrating experience because, like we said, thoughts cut off, and before you manage to write it down, another one came up. You can also record, so you can speak out the thoughts. It's quicker, and today we have AI tools that will transcribe it pretty accurately. And so it's tough in the beginning to figure out the logistics, but once you get a hang of it, at this point I'm trained so well that my baseline in my mind is clear. Why? Now the chatter goes on. But most of it is handled. Oh, not handled. Quick, take a note. So you can get to that level. Yeah, you can get to that level.
I love it. I love that idea, and I'll just throw my 2 cents on top of it because I do a thing called Morning Pages, which is a practice of in the morning. I don't always do in the morning. You just write 3 pages, and I do it all in my Remarkable, so it's half technology, but writing, because that's an important part. 3 pages of whatever's in your brain. Just let it out. And when I first learned about it, I was like, that's stupid, right? Because I'm a C and I'm an INTJ, and I probably should have been a computer science major. And I thought that's stupid. It's not going to do anything. I don't understand how that would help. And then I started doing it. And my mind is so much more clear when I get done doing that practice, right? When I'm done with that. And then I can, kind of get on with my day. So I love that concept. Reuven, this has been a fantastic conversation. Thanks for being here with us today.
My pleasure.
All right. How do we find you out on the interwebs if we want to learn more?
Yeah, so you can go to reuvenshelef.com. And if you're not sure about the spelling, I assume that you'll have it in the show notes.
Absolutely.
But if you want to talk to me, and I'm happy to talk to anyone who just heard me and something struck a chord, something resonated with you, I'll be happy to hear from you. And I put up a special page to book a meeting with me, free, 30-minute, I call it strategy call, but it could be anything you want. And that's at meetreuven.com.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for being here with us today. We're going to shift into our end of show ritual, which, because you do your homework, that's coming. And you'll know that I always tell guests, if you got somewhere to be and something to do, feel free. But we're going to do it anyway. It takes about 5 minutes. So with that, here we go. Funny things, stupid things from the internet that made Eric laugh this week. This is a nerd joke. The adjective for metal is metallic, but not so for iron, which is ironic.
Yark, yark, yark.
Yark, yark.
This one is about it's author centric, so I thought it was funny. This guy, Thomas Erickson, has written a bunch of books. 4 of them are pictured here. Surrounded by setbacks, surrounded by narcissists, surrounded by idiots, and surrounded by psychopaths. And the caption is, has it occurred to Thomas that he might be the problem?
Top of this wheel.
This one is for Morag because it includes a Jeff. This is a CNN graphic that shows the world's nuclear arsenals, and it starts with Russia and the United States and what they have in terms of nuclear capabilities. And then it's a bar chart that goes all the way down to someone that has less than 30, and it just says Jeff. The caption is, who the hell is Jeff? Kind of crazy that artificial intelligence needs the entire output of a nuclear reactor, but actual intelligence can run on Twix bars and cocaine, for example. That's for Ruby because it includes a Twix bar reference.
Bar.
This one is something that Ruby and Lori will both identify with when it's an hour before morning feeding time and the cat sees you move in bed. It's a picture of
so sweaty.
Sigourney Weaver from Alien as the alien was leaning in and breathing on her, and it's a cat adjacent doing the same. This one is TCB level humor for me. It's about a guy in a library. Just told a guy talking on his phone in the library to shut the fuck up, and everyone applauded me, so I told them to shut the fuck up too. Funny things. Good feels today. Steve's not going to make you cry, but it's a pretty incredible one. So here we go. Steve, do your thing.
Now, Steve Hartman on the road.
Incredible.
Wow.
I mean,
Nice.
just think about 20 years ago, 40 years ago, even further back. Nobody would have ever
left
known.
behind. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody would have ever known. Normally we do a cocktail, but I was too busy today, so I didn't do one today. So you're not getting one. But I have gratitude for each and every one of you. Thanks, Reuven, for being here with us today. Thanks to each and every one of you that have tuned in. Let's head to dinner, folks. It is time to eat. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Thank you very much.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for joining us today. If you had a good time and learned a thing or two at today's happy hour, please share it with your friends. If you want to join our tribe, head on over to skyeteam.cloud/TCB or email us at info@skyeteam.com. That's SKYE team.com. Thanks again, and remember, you've always got friends at the Corporate Bartender.